Hello and welcome to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andi,
And I'm Claire.
and we're here to talk about some of the disturbing things that go on in the world, past and present. We feel like not knowing doesn't mean the crazy doesn't exist.
So we're going to scar you with the knowing.
Enjoy!
All right. So what do you got for us, Claire?
Today, we're headed to the state that has the butterfly is the zebra longwing as their state butterfly.
I've never even heard of a zebra. What is it? Zebra longwing?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea.
Fine, this one should narrow it down for you. It does not have the state bird as the cardinal, but it's the mockingbird. There's got to be only like 3 states that don't have it as the cardinal. The state wildflower is coreopsis. The state beverage is an orange juice.
Florida?
Yeah. I don't
Their
want to give
state
it
bird is the mocking.
Yeah.
Huh.
And their mammal is the dolphin, not the yoga pose.
Claire and I tried to do the dolphin yoga pose. It's not very easy.
No, you'll end up looking like the Michelin Tire Man. Anyway, we're going to start out in July of 1999 in Jacksonville, Florida. It starts as a regular day. 24-year-old Tyresa Mack spends the morning out with a friend, going around town, applying for jobs. She's a young mom, just trying to keep things stable, trying to do the right thing. Witnesses will see her and a friend go from business to business, filling out applications. Sometime in the late morning, early afternoon, she goes back to her apartment. And that's the last time anyone sees Tyresa alive. She doesn't pick up her kids from daycare. She misses a doctor's appointment for her youngest child. Her family starts to worry. That evening around 7 p.m., her sister decides to go to her apartment to check on her. The door is locked. No one answers. She's already got the feeling something's wrong, so she knocks on the neighbor's door and asks if they'd seen her. The neighbor's like, "Nah, I saw her this morning, like usual, but I haven't seen her since." And the sister's like, "There's something really not right, and I can't get in." And the neighbor's like, "Let's break down the door." And I was like, I like that neighbor. Like, I'll do it. So they bust down the door. They go in there. She finds her sister lying on the bed, and she doesn't have to touch her to know she's dead.
It's sad.
Super sad. I felt bad for the sister because she'll even say she thought something was wrong. She just didn't expect it to be that wrong. But police will get there. They'll find her semi-nude from the waist down. There's a white cord wrapped around her neck and tied really tight. She is definitely dead. Detectives arrive and start processing the scene. When you first walk into the house, it seems relatively normal. Like, it doesn't, like, it wasn't broken into. Like, things aren't trashed around in the living room. Until they get to the bedroom, you can tell that's where something horrible happened. Tyresa had fought hard. She had abrasions, one on her face so bad the skin peeled away from her nose.
Oh, God.
She's only partially clothed. Her body is covered in defensive wounds. Like, her hands are bloodied from, like, she battled.
That's sad.
They also notice that, like, she has an indentation where a ring should have been on her hand, but that's missing, and she always wore it. They also are able to collect a semen sample. In the living room on the way out, detectives noticed, which, by the way, I'm just going to tell you, I was in, like, on the way out, detectives noticed that it looked like a TV was missing from the entertainment center, and they noticed that there was a dust spot where the TV was. I was irritated. I was like, let me be dead in the other room, and you're going to notice dust. But I guess it's semi-important. But they noticed that there's a TV missing from the entertainment unit. They do the typical go around talking to the neighbors. A couple of neighbors recall seeing a young black man there. Some saw him going in, some saw him coming out. One witness watched him walk out of the apartment carrying her television and loading it into his car. They show everybody a couple mugshots of just, like, you know, people they might think it could be based on the severity of the crime, people who are around the area, but that leads to nothing. So really the only thing they have to go on is semen. So they send that to the lab. A full DNA profile is able to be created and uploaded into CODIS, but there's nothing that comes back. No hits, no matches, no suspect. The DNA is good, the science is solid, but the man who left isn't in the system. So the case goes cold for 4 years.
Oh, God.
Yeah. 4 years where a man who raped and strangled a young mother walked around Jacksonville like nothing happened. Then we're going to fast forward to it's New Year's Day 2003. A family member goes to check on 19-year-old Nakia Kilpatrick. She hasn't been answering her phone. She has 2 little boys and she's pregnant. She doesn't just go silent. So the family member goes to the apartment. She can hear her kids crying through the door. Naturally, it's locked. The blinds are broken, so she can see in a little bit, and she can see the kids kind of moving around, and she also sees Nakia laying on the floor. So she tears off to go get help. When they're able to get inside, they find Nakia's 2 sons, an 11-month-old and a 2-year-old, alone. Hungry, dehydrated, wearing soiled diapers. One of them is so dehydrated, he'd been trying to drink out of the toilet.
Aw.
And that detail with detectives, like, they'll say that was the worst thing to walk into. She was dead for days, and the kids were just in there.
How old were they? 11 months and how old?
2.
Aw, poor babies.
Yeah. So Nakia is dead. She was bound. She'd been raped. She'd been strangled with a cord. It was tied super tight. If you don't remember from the first one, a cord tied super tight. It has the same tied knot, but they don't know that these are the same. Mind you, it's been 4 years, so if they remembered a knot from a case 4 years ago, that'd be weird too.
Yeah.
But detectives do what they always do. They start with the people closest to her. They look at her boyfriend. They look at exes. They look at anyone who might have had a reason to hurt her. Her boyfriend's alibi checks out. He's cleared pretty quickly. Then a neighbor mentions something she hadn't thought was important, a taxi. She remembers seeing a cab parked outside Nakia's apartment a couple days earlier. Engine off, driver nowhere in sight, just sitting there.
Who calls a cab and is like, here, wait right here. I'll be back in like 20 minutes.
I guess they have to pee at some point, but, like, I don't know what the rules are of parking and leaving your taxi somewhere.
No, I meant like a killer taking a cab too. I'll be back. Just wait right here.
Yeah. It's weird, but it's not enough to solve anything, so detectives jot that down as, somebody mentioned it. Then 8 days later, on January 9th, another young woman is murdered. Her name is Shawana McAllister. She's 20 years old, a nursing assistant. She's pregnant, and she lived about a mile from Nakia.
Oh, gosh.
Her boyfriend had come home from work. He realized he'd forgot his keys, and he knocks. Nobody answers. He calls her, no answer. So he decides to break in through the window, and that's when he finds inside the apartment that his girlfriend's dead.
It doesn't help that he broke in, I'm just going to say.
Yeah. And this is where detectives, and honestly, I can understand where they would also think that, like, this doesn't look good. He's also the one who found her. He's the one who broke in. He's the closest person to her. Statistically, he's the guy. But detectives bring him in. They question him. They go over his timeline. They look at his phone records. They talk to his coworkers. He even agrees to take a polygraph test that he passes, and he offers up a DNA sample. The lab compares it to the semen found on Nakia. No match. They compare it to the semen found on Shawanda. No match. They compare it to the DNA from Tyrese's murder back in 1999. He's still not a match. He's just not their guy. So detectives are just like, well, that fucking sucks, because it would have been great to find the guy. Especially if he called on himself. But now is when detectives are starting to notice that they've got a pattern between Tyresa, Nakia, and Shawanda, because the scenes are pretty similar. And this is also when they start connecting the dots that the DNA is the same, but they just don't have anybody tied to it.
Man, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And mind you, CODIS still has nothing. So whoever the man is, he hasn't been arrested for something that qualifies for putting his DNA in CODIS. But they at least now know they're hunting one man, a serial offender, which I initially was like, I don't know which is scarier, several of them out there or one that they have no idea who he is.
I'd say several, because your chances of running into him are way higher than if it's one.
Yes, but how scary that there's a murder rapist out there.
That's terrifying.
But several?
Well, but it all matches, so I think it'd be scarier to have several.
Yeah.
Versus just one freak.
Yeah. Well, so since they got Jack Diddley, they go back to the weird outside the normal taxi driver thing. So They pull taxi company records, driver rosters, schedules, dispatch logs. They look at who was working around the time Nakia was killed. They look at who might have been in the area. And one name keeps coming up. A driver whose routes overlap with victim locations. A driver who started around the time the murders escalated. A driver who has gaps in work history. A driver who was recently fired. They pull his personnel file, and who do they see but Paul Durousseau. They bring Paul in for questioning, and he's calm, he's polite, he's cooperative.
He did it.
Well, I guess the boyfriend wasn't exactly calm. But this is probably because this isn't the first time he's had a run-in with the law, but he always gets away with shit, so I'm sure he was calm and polite. But he doesn't look like the monster they were expecting. He looks like a regular guy who drives a cab and makes small talk.
Not anymore, he got fired.
Yeah. But he looks like that kind of feller. They ask him for a DNA sample, and he's like, not happening. So they're like, ha-ha! They get a warrant, they run his DNA, and guess what matches? It matches the semen from Tyrese's murder in 1999. It matches the DNA from Nakia's case. It matches pretty much all the DNA from all the cases.
It pretty much does, or it does?
Oh, yeah, well, it does, Andrea.
You said pretty much.
Stop. Pretty much all the things. Paul Durousseau is the guy. And this is where we finally rewind and ask, who the fuck is this feller? Because his background is a mess of trauma, instability, and violence, and a justice system that just kept letting him walk away, as we've seen time and time again. So Paul was born in Texas in 1970. His father was violently abusive, like crazy violent. He whipped Paul's mother with a heated coat hanger while she was pregnant. When police came after him, the feller fled. Paul's dad, that is. So Paul, his mother, and his older brother moved to L.A. to live with his aunt. Paul was born premature with jaundice. At 8 months old, he fell from his stroller, hit his head so hard that the back of his skull was exposed.
Jesus.
There's your head injury. He spent months immobilized so the injury could heal. Later, he was diagnosed with severe anemia and hyperthyroidism, or hypothyroidism, conditions that can affect cognition and impulse control. In 1971, if you're not doing the math, that was all his first year.
Wow.
His mother married a Vietnam vet named Willie Page, who, unfortunately for everyone, had severe PTSD, and he would have chronic outbursts, which would be terrifying. He at one point held Paul's mother at gunpoint. A couple other times he would threaten to burn the house down. And when the relationship ended, he threatened to kill her children if he ever saw any of them ever again.
Oh. Those were some naughty children.
So Paul's mother is later going to admit that she physically punished Paul by sitting on him and spanking him until he couldn't breathe.
What's with you and finding the cases where the ladies sit on the children?
I think it should be more disturbing that there are parents out there, apparently several of them, that they punish their children by sitting on them.
I know Dad used to sit on us, but that was more we'd be in his spot on the fart couch. When he'd want to sit down, he would just sit on us and act like he couldn't see us. Not sit on us as punishment.
Not you're in trouble, I'm going to sit on you. I guess it's easier to have you held down. I don't know.
No, that's weird.
No. For this lady, that she would sit on him and then spank him until he couldn't breathe. So
he couldn't breathe because she's sitting on him.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird punishment that whatever.
I've never thought of putting my butt on my children.
I'm glad for that. And so are they. But he's going to grow up in a poverty-stricken area of South Central Los Angeles where there were gangs and frequent shootouts. He would move around so much he'd go to 6 different elementary schools. The family would live on social assistance and Medicaid. He was in special education and labeled a slow learner. He was also chronically underweight. By the time he's 6'5", he's 110 pounds.
Wait, he's
a huge boy.
Wouldn't your bones just weigh the 110 pounds?
I feel like he was very scrawny.
Geez, what would he have been if he was well fed as a young child?
Probably easily 200.
Yeah, but how tall would he have been? You would have thought that, like, the nutrition...
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, the lack thereof, he would have been...
A beast?
Jeez Louise.
He would repeat a grade in high school and eventually be beaten as part of a gang initiation and have to transfer schools, but he'll eventually graduate when he's 19. He started work as a security guard. His mom, while he's off doing that, would actually end up taking custody of her sister's 5 children, many with disabilities. And I did do a darty eye because I was like, are things not hard enough for this lady?
Yeah.
But I guess it's like family, and
Yeah.
Paul's grown up and she's not sitting on him anymore.
I feel like if you were the kind of parent that felt the need to sit on your children, hopefully patience came with her age, but that's a lot. And all of them have disabilities? That's...
Well, many. I don't know how many. I didn't dig into that because this is just giving you his background.
Well, I hope their disabilities are like ADHD.
Yeah. Rather than this one's got a cane, this one's only got a
cerebral palsy and all the things. Yeah.
Well, Paul would help care for them. He would even perform CPR on one of his cousins and his mother when they had complications from a severe case of chickenpox.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a thing?
I'm not a doctor, but he helped.
How bad does it have to be?
Evidently pretty severe. So you have this complicated picture, though, a kid raised in chaos, medical issues, violence, instability, but also moments when he stepped up and cared for people. But not that having a shitty past gives you the excuse to be a violent adult, but it shows you what he came out of. Then he decides to start his adult criminal nonsense. His first offense as an adult is in December 1991 and then January 1992, both for the same thing, carrying a concealed firearm in California. But because it's just like, they don't really do anything, it's more of like a slap on the wrist kind of a situation. And then Paul decides to enlist in the army in November 92, and he's eventually stationed in Germany. That's where he meets his love, and gets married. People who knew them back then said their relationship seemed fine and everything in the beginning, but that didn't last long. Because once Paul had her, once the relationship was established, the control started. It started small, little comments, little criticisms, little rules. Then it grew. He didn't want her going out with friends. He didn't want her talking to certain people. He wanted to know where she was, who she was with, and what she was doing. And then the isolation started. He wanted her home. He wanted her dependent. He wanted her cut off from support. And then the abuse started. Behind closed doors, he strangled her during arguments. He grabbed her by the neck. He slapped her. He threatened her. He controlled the money. He controlled the decisions. He controlled her. Neighbors would hear screaming. The military police documented incidences. And like so many women in abusive relationships, especially military spouses, she stayed. She tried to make it work. She tried to keep the peace. She tried to survive. So they transfer to Fort Benning, Georgia in 96, and they'll have 2 daughters, one in 96, one in 97. In March 1997, he's also arrested for kidnapping and raping a young woman. Now, she reported it, she identified him, she does everything right, but they opt to drop charges as of August, so he kind of gets away with it because it doesn't proceed anywhere. Then later in September, 26-year-old Tracy Habersham was found nude on Fort Benning. She'd been missing 48 hours. She was last seen leaving a party. She had been raped, strangled with a cord. DNA was collected, but that's all they have. Paul's not on the radar. That's just so you know that happens also in 97. Now, it's around 1999 that with all the police coming out, kind of a nonsense, that police are going to advise his wife to get a restraining order because he gets violent every time she mentions divorce. And one of the times when they recommend doing the restraining order, he had choked her pretty good.
What does that mean? Like he left marks? Why didn't they arrest him?
Well, I guess he was more violent than he usually was, and it scared her pretty good. But since every time she would mention divorce, that was the route he would be going, it was finally getting to the point of like, I don't know. I don't know why with domestic things, the military police don't, I don't know. I don't know if it's a case of they thought they could handle things without, because once you go the route of charges, it's harder to, if they take it back or things were just heated, like, you know, If it's one of those, this is always the thing that they're loud, the neighbors call the police, but it's not like a, this is what they do kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was one of those types. Which then brings us to January 1999. He's finally kicked out of the army. Not for domestic violence, not for strangling his wife, not for threats, but for theft. He was court-martialed for possessing stolen electronic equipment from other soldiers, and that was what got him a dishonorable discharge.
That's sick.
Right? So they pack their bags and move to his wife's hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. But I figured you'd be horrified as much as I was that, like, all the domestic violence nonsense that they'd come out for, it wasn't bad enough, but him stealing stuff, like...
Yeah, I'm going to steal something from another soldier, so I'm out. Okay.
I don't know if it's a case of the number of times a wife will be like, oh, I don't want to press charges, we've managed to work it out, is why they opt not to do that. But if another soldier steals from another soldier, that one's so pissed that he's going to continue with the charges. It's easier to prosecute, I guess.
The military seems to do whatever they want.
Yeah. But once they're in Jacksonville, this is the period that we were discussing initially. He and his wife fight constantly about finances. In September and October 2001, Paul is going to spend 48 days in jail for domestic battery. Despite being a convicted felon, he still manages to get legitimate jobs. In 2001, he was hired as a school bus driver.
What?
Mm-hmm. And an animal control worker. By 2003, he was driving a cab for Gator City Taxi. The city issued his taxi permit after running the background check, so somehow he slipped through those cracks. Neighbors and friends described him as a lewd womanizer. He had a habit of hitting on young women, including girls who looked 13 or 14.
Ew.
He would ask women when they wanted to make flicks with him, which is, like, just all around, he's a disgusting human being. In 2001, he's arrested for raping a young woman in Jacksonville. Basically, he was cheating on his wife. Surprise, surprise. He showed up at the girlfriend's house with a hickey. She gets pissed and tries to break it off with him. And that pisses him off because instead of him being like, yeah, I shouldn't be fucking around on my wife anyway, he smacks her around, drags her through the apartment, throws her onto the dryer, and sexually assaults her.
Wait, he did that to his wife or his girlfriend? I thought you just said he strolls in.
Girlfriend. Exactly. He's a disgusting human being. He probably had another side piece. He was cheating on his wife, probably, and his girlfriend, because I don't see the wife putting a hickey on his neck.
No.
But when he swans in with one on his neck, she gets upset and then just like, I'm done with this whole thing. And that's when he gets mad. And you know how courts like to minimize situations, and I feel like that's what they do here, because what he did wasn't okay, whether he knew her or not, whether he had sex with her or not. But they end up dropping the charges down to just assault.
What?
And he serves 30 days in jail and gets 2 years of probation. That's it.
He's... okay.
Right.
I guess all the calls from when he was in the military don't show up because that's...
well, it's also out of in a different state, but it's just one of those, when you go back and look at things, it's super frustrating because by all rights, this piece of shit, I mean, I know you can't lock him away for life because he smacks his wife, but it's just like, he also had a charge. I get that it was dropped. It's frustrating. And mind you, while all of this is happening, the domestic violence, the dropped rape charges, the light sentences, women are dying. We've already talked about Tyresa in 1999, Nakia in early 2003, and then Shawanda a few days later. But there's more, because in December 2002, 18-year-old Nicole Williams was found wrapped in a blue blanket at the bottom of a ditch in Jacksonville. She'd been reported missing 2 days earlier. They collected semen and are able to pull DNA. They don't realize yet that all these are the same. Then in February 2003, the bodies of 17-year-old Giovanna Jefferson and 19-year-old Sarita Cohen were found in a ditch near a construction site, also in Jacksonville. Police estimated Giovanna was killed around January and Sarita about a few days later. Witnesses had seen them with a taxi driver matching Paul's description on the night they disappeared. Now, when detectives finally have Paul's DNA and everything snaps into place, the semen from Tyresa, the DNA from Nakia, Nicole, Shawanda, Giovanna, Sarita, and Tracy, it's all him. On June 17th, 2003, Paul is arrested and charged with 5 counts of murder in Florida. He's later linked to Tracy's murder in Georgia as well. And in December 2007, he does go to trial and is found guilty and sentenced to death for the murder of Tyresa Mack.
Good.
After his arrest, investigators went back and looked at unsolved murders in every place he's ever lived: Florida, Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, California, even Germany, because they still believe there's more victims out there.
And are there?
Not that they're proceeding with anything, because I think since he's sitting there, they've at least got him, so there's not more. But, his death sentence conviction...
It was commuted.
The jury voted 10-2 in favor of death, which was allowed under Florida law at the time. Then in 2016, the U.S. Supreme Court rules that Florida's death penalty system is unconstitutional unless the jury is unanimous. So in January 2017, Paul's death sentence is overturned because of that 10-2 split. And in December 2021, he's resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Well...
Which is bullshit.
At least they didn't give him parole.
I wish they would go after him on Nakia's charges, because I think the fact that her kids were left in there, not that he should have killed the kids too, but he killed her in a brutal way with her kids just milling around, and then also gave no care to their lives, and it's disgusting. But because a capital murder case costs so much is why, since he's just in the clink, they'll stick with life in prison. I think he should die.
I agree. But his wife finally got her divorce.
Yeah, that's because he's locked up and it's easier to...
She can't get smacked for mentioning it?
Yeah, but super scary. She is super lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
I would be curious how he would have treated his daughters.
How old were they when he got arrested?
They'd have been like 5 and 6. But he clearly doesn't have any sort of respect for females, which I think is weird.
Yeah.
You would think he would take it out on fellers, since his dad and his stepdad were not nice.
It doesn't sound like she was the nicest lady either.
But he saved her with CPR. At what point did it go bad?
His mom also sat on him. It could be one of those things that when you're a kid, you don't realize it's bad until you're an adult, and then you realize some of the stuff that your parents did wasn't very nice, and then you're like, you know what? That wasn't okay.
No, but I really feel bad for everybody, but especially the family members that had to find their loved ones.
Oh, that's awful.
It definitely makes me not want to check on people. I mean, I don't want to find you dead. Everybody who goes and has a feeling, it's a dead body.
Or anybody that's sent to go check. Usually it's the murderer sending them to go check, which is extra messed up. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah. I'm surprised you weren't more upset at the girlfriend one.
Why?
That he got 2 years probation, 30 days in the clink for an assault/rape.
It sounds like she probably didn't want to testify.
She's the one who reported it.
So what? She probably didn't want to testify because, like we've seen, rape victims, they get dragged through the ringer during the court process. So they could have brought in whatever sexual interest she was into to make it look like she was some dirty, nasty slut. And the fact that she's having an affair with a married man doesn't make her look very good. So rather than be dragged all through that, the justice system sucks.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Homicide Hobbies. If we made you laugh, if we made you cry, or if we mind-fucked you for the day, then we thank you for listening. Please write a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. We're freaking awesome. And join us next week for another episode of Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andi.
And I'm Claire.
That's all we've got.